The moment your alarm goes off, the noise begins. Before your feet even touch the floor, you're checking your phone. Messages, notifications, emails, then work takes over. Conversations fill the day. Music plays in the background. A podcast follows you during the drive home. In the evening, another video starts, followed by endless scrolling until your eyes finally grow tired. Then you go to bed. The room is quiet, but your mind isn't. And tomorrow, the same cycle begins again. Have you ever wondered why, despite being connected to everything, you somehow feel disconnected from yourself? What if the reason isn't that you've lost who you are? What if you've simply never stopped long enough to meet yourself again? It's a question most of us never think to ask. We often treat silence as something to avoid. The moment life becomes quiet, we instinctively reach for another distraction, another notification, another conversation, anything to fill the space. But Buddhist wisdom has pointed to a surprising truth for centuries. Silence isn't empty. It's where the noise of the world slowly fades, and your own wisdom finally has a chance to be heard. In this video, you'll discover 7 simple Buddhist habits that can help you detach from constant mental noise, rebuild yourself from within, and find a deeper kind of peace, one that doesn't depend on the outside world becoming quieter. Because sometimes the greatest transformation in your life doesn't begin with doing more. It begins the moment you're finally willing to sit in the quiet. Habit 1. Stop escaping every quiet moment. When was the last time you experienced 5 minutes of complete silence? Not while waiting for a video to load, not while listening to music, not while checking your phone between tasks. Just 5 quiet minutes with nothing demanding your attention. For many of us, that simple moment has become surprisingly rare. The instant we find ourselves alone, we instinctively reach for something. We unlock our phones while standing in line. We turn on the TV while eating dinner. We play music the moment we step into the car. Before going to sleep, we scroll through social media until our eyes become too tired to stay open. These habits seem harmless because they fill the empty spaces in our day. But over time, those empty spaces are exactly what we stop experiencing. Modern psychology explains that distraction gives the brain a quick sense of relief. It helps us avoid boredom, uncomfortable emotions, and difficult questions. For a few moments, we feel better, but relief is not the same as peace. Relief fades the moment the distraction disappears, which is why we keep searching for the next one. Buddhist wisdom gently points us in a different direction. It teaches that awareness doesn't grow while we are constantly escaping ourselves. Awareness begins where distraction ends. When the noise becomes quieter, something remarkable happens. You begin noticing your thoughts instead of immediately reacting to them. You notice your emotions without trying to bury them, and little by little, you become familiar with the person you've been too busy to meet. This doesn't mean you need to spend hours meditating or retreat to a mountain. Transformation often begins with something much smaller. Tomorrow, choose just 5 minutes. Leave your phone in another room. Don't play music. Don't turn on the television. Simply sit, breathe, and notice what your mind does without trying to change it. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. That's completely natural. The mind has been trained to expect constant stimulation. But if you stay with the silence instead of running from it, you'll discover that the discomfort slowly begins to soften, because silence isn't your enemy. It's the place where your attention finally comes home. And once the noise begins to disappear, something unexpected begins speaking. Habit 2. Learn to listen before you react. Think about how many times you react before you truly understand what is happening. Someone makes a critical comment, and before they've even finished speaking, your mind is already preparing a defense. A stranger cuts you off in traffic, and frustration takes over in an instant. You read a single post on social media, and within seconds you're feeling angry, anxious, or offended. These reactions happen so quickly that they feel automatic, almost as if someone else is pressing the buttons inside your mind. But here's something worth noticing. The event itself is often very short. What keeps it alive is the reaction that follows. Modern psychology tells us that the brain is designed to respond quickly. Thousands of years ago, reacting without hesitation helped our ancestors survive real dangers. Today, however, that same instinct often turns small inconveniences into emotional storms. We react first, reflect later, and by then, our words or emotions have already carried us somewhere we never intended to go. Buddhist wisdom offers a simple but life-changing practice. It reminds us that freedom doesn't begin when the world becomes kinder. It begins in the small space between what happens and how we choose to respond. That space may only last a single breath, but within it lies the power to change the direction of an entire conversation, an entire day, or even an entire relationship. Imagine hearing criticism and, instead of answering immediately, taking one slow, steady breath. Not to suppress your feelings, but to understand them. That single pause creates room for awareness to enter before habit takes over. You stop reacting from old patterns and start responding with intention. Try this today. The next time something irritates you, don't rush to speak. Defend yourself or prove your point. Take one full breath first. You may be surprised by how different your response becomes when silence arrives before your words, because wisdom rarely shouts. It quietly appears in the moments we choose not to react. And once you begin discovering the strength hidden inside that pause, another invisible habit slowly reveals itself. Habit 3. Stop feeding every thought. One of the greatest misunderstandings about the mind is believing that every thought deserves your attention. It doesn't. In fact, many of the thoughts that steal your peace only survive because they keep receiving your time, your energy, and your belief. Imagine a single negative thought appearing in your mind. What if I fail? On its own, it's just a passing mental event. But then you begin building a story around it. You imagine the worst-case scenario. You replay old failures. You compare yourself to others. Before long, one small thought has grown into an emotional reality that feels impossible to escape. This happens every day. You replay an argument that never actually happened. You worry about a future that hasn't arrived. You compare your life to someone else's highlight reel. You criticize yourself for mistakes that everyone else has already forgotten. The thought comes, but it's the attention you give it that allows it to grow. Modern psychology supports this idea. The brain strengthens the mental pathways it uses most often. Whatever repeatedly receives your attention becomes easier to think about again. It's like walking across the same patch of grass every day. Eventually, a clear path begins to form. In the same way, the thoughts you feed become the thoughts your mind returns to most naturally. Buddhist wisdom offers a beautifully simple alternative. Observe the thought, but don't become its companion. You don't have to argue with it, push it away, or prove it wrong. You simply notice that it has appeared, just as you would notice a cloud passing across the sky. A cloud doesn't become the sky, and a thought doesn't become who you are. Here's a practice you can try today. The next time a difficult thought appears, quietly label it instead of believing it. Say to yourself, this is worry, this is self-criticism, this is fear. By naming the thought, you create a small distance between your awareness and the story your mind is trying to tell. That distance is where clarity begins. The goal isn't to stop thinking, it's to stop feeding every thought as though it deserves a place at your table. And as those unnecessary thoughts slowly lose their strength, you may discover that your identity begins changing too. Habit 4. Let the old version of you become a memory. There comes a moment in every person's life when the greatest obstacle is no longer the past. It is the person they still believe they have to be. Many of us carry identities that were created years ago. Maybe you became the one who always pleased everyone, even when it meant ignoring your own needs. Maybe you believed you had to be perfect because mistakes made you feel unworthy. Perhaps you started seeing yourself as the victim of every situation, or as someone who constantly needed approval from others to feel valuable. At first, these identities may have helped you survive difficult seasons, but survival and growth are not the same thing. The challenge is that the mind becomes attached to what feels familiar. Psychology shows that once we build an identity, the brain naturally tries to protect it, even when that identity is limiting us. We keep acting in the same ways because they feel safe, not because they help us become the person we are truly capable of becoming. Buddhist wisdom offers a liberating perspective. It teaches that the self is not a finished product frozen in time. It is constantly unfolding, changing with every experience, every lesson, and every moment of awareness. Just as a tree quietly grows new branches each season without clinging to the old ones, you are meant to keep growing too. Imagine trying to wear the same clothes you wore as a child. No matter how meaningful they once were, they no longer fit the person you have become. Old identities are much the same. Holding on to them does not honor your past. It prevents your future from unfolding. Today, ask yourself one honest question. Which version of me am I still protecting? Do not answer too quickly. Sit with it. You may discover that the role you have been defending is the very thing keeping you from becoming lighter, calmer, and more authentic. Real growth does not always mean adding something new. Sometimes it means having the courage to gently outgrow what no longer reflects who you are. And when your identity becomes softer instead of rigid, your relationships begin changing naturally. Because people no longer meet the mask you have been wearing. They begin meeting the real you. Habit 5. Protect your inner environment. Imagine waking up every morning and opening every window in your house, inviting anyone to walk in. Some people bring kindness, others bring fear, anger, gossip, and endless complaints. By the end of the day, your home no longer feels peaceful, not because you created the chaos, but because you never chose what was allowed to enter. Your mind works in the same way. Most people are careful about what they eat, yet they rarely question what they feed their minds. From the moment they wake up, they consume breaking news designed to capture attention. Social media filled with comparison, conversations centered around problems, and opinions that quietly shape how they see themselves and the world. Then they wonder why their thoughts feel restless and their hearts feel heavy. Here is something surprising. Your mind does not simply remember what you repeatedly consume. It slowly begins to reflect it. Spend enough time surrounded by fear, and ordinary life starts to feel dangerous. Spend enough time comparing yourself to others, and your own achievements begin to feel small. Listen to constant negativity, and eventually your inner voice starts speaking the same language. Buddhist wisdom has recognized this truth for centuries. The mind becomes what it repeatedly consumes. Just as clear water reflects the sky while muddy water cannot, a peaceful mind reflects wisdom only when it is not constantly clouded by unnecessary noise. This does not mean you should avoid the world. It means you should become intentional about what earns a place in your attention. Every article you read, every conversation you continue, every account you follow, and every thought you entertain is quietly shaping the person you are becoming. So here is a simple practice for today. Replace just 10 minutes of scrolling with 10 minutes of silence. Sit by a window. Take a slow walk, watch the sunrise, or simply notice your breathing. At first it may feel like you are doing nothing, but in reality, you are giving your mind something it has been missing for a long time, the chance to breathe. Because peace is not built only by removing stress, It is also built by choosing what deserves to live inside you, and eventually that quiet choice begins changing something much deeper than your thoughts. It begins changing the person who is thinking them. Habit 6. Become comfortable being alone. Here is a question most people never ask themselves. When you are alone, do you feel peaceful, or do you immediately search for something to escape into? That answer reveals more than you may think. Many people believe being alone is the same as being lonely, but they are not the same experience. Loneliness is the feeling that something important is missing. Solitude is the quiet discovery that your own company can be enough. Think about the last time you walked somewhere by yourself. Did you reach for your phone within minutes? The last time you drank your morning tea, did you feel the need to fill the silence with music or a video? Even during a short drive, many of us instinctively turn on a podcast, not because we truly want to learn something, but because we have forgotten how to simply be present with ourselves. The strange part is that the more we avoid being alone, the less we understand the person we are spending our entire life with. Psychology tells us that when people constantly escape quiet moments, they never give themselves the chance to process emotions, reflect on experiences, or build a stable sense of identity. Instead, they become dependent on outside stimulation to feel okay. But a life that always needs distraction eventually forgets how to feel peaceful without it. Buddhist wisdom offers a different path. A peaceful mind does not fear its own company. It finds strength in it, not because it has withdrawn from the world, but because it no longer needs constant noise to feel complete. When you become comfortable sitting with yourself, you stop chasing every distraction for comfort. You begin discovering that the calm you have been searching for outside has quietly been waiting within you all along. Here is a simple practice. Once this week, take a silent walk. No phone, no music, no destination you need to reach quickly. Just walk, observe the world around you, and notice the thoughts that come and go without following each one. At first, the silence may feel unfamiliar. Then, little by little, it begins to feel like coming home. Because the goal is not to spend your life alone. It is to become someone who is never afraid of meeting themselves. And finally, everything you have practiced until now leads to one quiet realization that changes the way you live forever. Habit 7. Rebuild yourself without announcing it. In a world where almost everything is shared, posted, and announced, there is a quiet temptation to let other people witness every step of our growth. We often feel that if no one notices our progress, maybe it is not real. But nature has never worked that way. Think about bamboo. For years, it appears as if almost nothing is happening. Beneath the surface, however, an incredible network of roots is quietly growing stronger. Day after day, the work remains invisible. Then, when the foundation is finally ready, the bamboo rises with remarkable speed. What looks like sudden growth is actually the result of countless unseen days of patient preparation. Your inner life follows the same pattern. The most meaningful transformation rarely announces itself. It happens in the ordinary moments no one else will ever see. It is choosing not to react to a harsh comment that once would have ruined your day. It is putting your phone aside and enjoying a quiet evening without feeling restless. It is letting a disagreement end instead of replaying it all night. It is noticing a difficult thought and allowing it to pass without chasing it. No audience applauds these moments. No one leaves a comment telling you how much you have changed. Yet these are the moments that quietly reshape your character. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom. Real growth is not about creating a better image of yourself for the world to admire. It is about becoming a person who no longer depends on the world's approval to feel complete. Slowly, almost without noticing, something begins to change. You become calmer when life feels uncertain, less reactive when emotions arise, more present in conversations, harder to offend because your peace is no longer so fragile, easier to trust because fear no longer guides every decision, more grateful for ordinary moments you once rushed past. The world around you may look exactly the same people, the same responsibilities, the same challenges, but your experience of them becomes completely different. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you became stronger, quieter, and wiser within. And perhaps this is the greatest secret hidden inside silence. It does not ask you to become someone else. It gently reveals the person you were always capable of becoming. When that happens, you no longer need to prove your growth. You simply live it. And that quiet transformation is often the most powerful kind of all. At the beginning of this video, we talked about a life filled with constant noise. From the moment you opened your eyes in the morning until the moment you tried to fall asleep, there was always something asking for your attention. Another notification, another conversation, another distraction. Day after day, the outside world became so loud that you slowly stopped hearing the quiet voice within yourself. Now, return to the image of that dusty mirror. For a long time, you may have believed that something inside you was missing, that you needed to become someone stronger, wiser, or more complete before you could finally feel at peace. But what if that was never the real problem? What if you were never broken to begin with? Just as a mirror does not lose its reflection when dust gathers on its surface, your true nature was never lost beneath the noise. It was simply hidden beneath years of constant distraction, borrowed expectations, endless comparison, and the habit of always looking outside yourself for answers. Silence did not create a new version of you. It simply cleared away everything that was preventing you from seeing the one who had been there all along. That is why these 7 habits matter. They are not about escaping the world or withdrawing from life. They are gentle reminders to return to yourself, one quiet moment at a time. As your mind becomes less crowded, your choices become clearer, your reactions become calmer, and your heart becomes lighter. And without forcing anything, you begin living with a quiet confidence that does not depend on anyone else's approval. Remember, rebuilding yourself is not a race. Like bamboo growing unseen beneath the ground, the most meaningful growth often happens in silence, long before anyone else can see it. So do not worry if your progress feels slow. Do not worry if no one notices. Keep protecting your peace. Keep choosing awareness over distraction. Keep making space for silence, because every quiet moment is gently shaping the person you are becoming. And before you leave today, take a moment to reflect on one final question. If you stopped filling every quiet moment with noise, who might you finally become? If this message brought you even a little more clarity, let me know in the comments which habit spoke to you the most. And if you would like to continue exploring timeless Buddhist wisdom for a calmer, stronger, and more meaningful life, I will see you in the next video.